Hello,
Hello. Welcome to Left and Correct.
the only podcast where both of us are left.
But only one of us is correct.
Hello, shooting today live from the beautiful Fire Island.
You son of a bitch. Outside. You. You. Both of us are in different locations today. Zach is on Fire Island. I'm in my living room.
Yes, normally I would be in my bedroom, but I paid for a vacation a year ago, and even though I'm unemployed, my money was still good because it was paid a year ago. I don't know how you describe
Good.
that. Yeah, it's very nice out here. I highly recommend everyone do it. Adrian, I think someday you got to do it. You got to do it.
I gotta do it. I've never been out to Fire Island.
Oh, ever?
Never.
Oh, it's
No.
beautiful.
I know.
For those who for those who don't know, it's a sandbar off of Long Island in New York. It's very beautiful. A few little towns scattered on it, but what makes it so cool is that there's no cars on the island. Um,
Oh.
there's not even any roads. Like the town I'm staying in right now, the Pines, has like this little dirt road that runs along it. So like there's a Jeep here and there, but most of it's park rangers, and they drive on the beach because the whole thing is a national seashore. Um, so yeah, everything has to come to the island via boat,
That's
and
lovely.
and you have to carry everything to your house or your hotel room that you're staying at, and everywhere you walk, you're on like these raised boardwalks. So it's kind of like being in that movie, that Kevin Costner movie, Waterworld. You know, like
Oh.
yeah, you're always like 2 feet up from the ground, and all around you are just plants and trees and tick covered deer. You know,
So,
yeah.
but do people live there year round?
No, maybe one or two people, but the all the houses are like boarded up for the winter, and the ferry service stops. So there's a bridge on the westernmost side of the island, like way far down, and the few people that live here get permits to drive their like trucks on the beach. So
Oh.
they live in like a real life version of The Shining. I mean, it would be terrible, I think, to be out here because
Wow.
each little town has,
It,
like 100 houses, and they're all boarded up and covered in ice. And like,
yeah. It would be like that. Have you seen the movie The Lighthouse?
yes, I did
It'd
just
be
see that
like that.
recently.
Isn't it great? I love that movie. I was
I love
watching
that
that movie.
movie.
And same director as The Witch.
Yes,
It
perfect
was another.
director.
Yes, one of Zach and myself. We share that our love of that movie. But yeah, Willem Dafoe's character in The Lighthouse. I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. Like that. Just like this scraggly old man in a lighthouse. You're like,
That poor guy was so miserable.
I know. Well, no, he tried to make the best of it and drinking gin
He
and
did.
talking about whatever the hell and like
Did you know
having.
that movie was supposed to be Prometheus and I think Proteus living together?
Oh,
Yeah, that's what it's all
okay,
based on. I think the
okay,
younger guy is Prometheus.
yeah,
Um,
that
that
okay.
that's
If
why
you're
they
too
eat
close to
his liver at the
the
end. Sorry,
okay,
spoilers.
spoilers,
Sorry, spoilers.
spoilers. Oh well, I my location changes because where I usually record in the bedroom is the window is close to the street and it's really loud outside, very very loud, and it woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, just really loud music and partying happening. So I woke up at 2
Really?
a.m. and yeah, and I couldn't fall back to sleep, and so I was just like, then I like went into the living room and I was just like, I guess, I like flossed my teeth and like watching the news. And then
You
all of a
lost your
sudden around
teeth?
five, no, floss my teeth.
Oh,
Yeah, I lost,
I
I
was like,
lost my teeth. Jesus Christ.
you
That's
need to
not
get out
so
of
bad.
quarantine, Adrian.
I brush my teeth. No, flossed my teeth. And then around 5 o'clock in the morning, the lights went out. The power went out.
I heard you all losing
And
power.
yeah. And so the power goes out in the apartment. And I was like, oh no, oh no. Because, oftentimes when New York City loses electricity, it can either be like very quickly or can last days. And I was like, oh no, oh, we have like a fridge full of food. I'm worried about my fish. And then I like, everything is very, very quiet. But then all of a sudden you hear from outside, like the people who are outside making noise. Now it's become this like, like this kind of like weird caterwauling. And everything is dark. And I was like, oh, okay. And then on Twitter, it just looked like, oh, there's blackout in Harlem. There's a blackout in the Upper West Side. And as soon as I saw Upper West Side, I was like, this probably won't last long because all those rich people are going to be like, this is unacceptable. And about like 25 minutes later, the lights came back on. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Well, that's
it was
great. I mean, we've been fine. We've been
very,
fine out here.
very stressful morning.
That stinks. Yeah. How was the storm? It was very nice out here.
Oh, I mean, the storm wasn't terrible. I mean, it was bad, like lots of trees and branches and stuff, but it wasn't. That's the weird part with that blackout this morning. I don't know what caused it because there was no storm, there was no gusts of wind or anything. Everything was chill, and then next thing you know,
Yeah.
you miss all the fun.
Well, speaking of lights going out, the lights, I don't know if you've heard, the lights have gone out on the largest remaining ice sheet in Canada. It's gone.
What?
Yeah, did you not hear this in the news
No.
today? Yeah, the biggest ice sheet that still lasted in Canada, the last Arctic ice sheet, is completely gone now. It fell apart yesterday,
Oh.
and it was the size of Manhattan, and it is no more. It fell into the ocean and melted away. So there's some news there.
Well then, um, oh, that doesn't bode well. That's
Oh, I thought you would have heard of it. I'm sorry. I saw it all over the news. I thought.
no, no, no. That's a bummer. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So global warming is on track. The percentages are up for global warming, as our
right.
president would say.
It's like, meanwhile, while everything's happening in this hellscape of 2020, the Earth is literally dying. I mean,
Yeah,
but like the planet itself, the planet will be fine. Our existence, on the other hand, doesn't bode so well, right? If you
yeah.
watch any
Do you,
any documentary about the Earth, it ebbs and flows with water and
do you think as the Earth gets destroyed, we'll be safer in New York or one of the first ones to go?
well, I think we live uptown. If we lived below Canal Street, we would definitely be screwed. Um, and other areas of like Queens and stuff. Like remember with Sandy, with Superstorm Sandy, there was so much damage, and it wasn't even that bad. I mean, it was bad, but in terms of it wasn't a hurricane. It wasn't like a level 5 or whatever the hell it was. Um, so I don't know. It doesn't. It doesn't seem like it'll be. And a lot of Lower Manhattan is landfill, not even
Yeah.
natural land. Um, yeah.
So does that mean it's all
What?
going to fall apart? Like we're going to see like garbage from the 1720s, like breaking up and floating down the river
Why would that happen? No, I
because of
don't
the
think
water
that's what.
rising. I don't know.
No, I think the water will rise. We'll probably see like Battery Park will probably it could probably end up being something like when you go to the aquarium and like you're right up there and the water's above you and then the seal comes up and like looks at you and swims away. Maybe something like that. But I mean, this is Manhattan. People will do whatever they can to protect this island and to have real estate on it.
Well,
But
that's
in
what I was
terms
thinking.
of
Like, would we be saved because the 1% is going to jump in and save us first more than anybody else?
true, that is possible. I mean, we being like further uptown, we're safer because of elevation. But the rich people, I don't. I've been seeing tweets and reading things, not really paying attention to it, about rich people leaving New York City or saying they don't want to come back because they have to pay more taxes and all this sort of like, what are we going to do? As if like it's an actual problem if rich people were to leave instead of it actually being like an equitable space for actual human beings who could benefit from living in a major metropolitan area instead of it just being an empty pied a terre for 18 months out of
Well,
2 years
yeah,
or
what did
whatever.
they say? It was something like 40,000 ultra wealthy families had left the city or something. 40,000 people within
Yeah.
the top 5% had left the family or left the city. I mean, they do barely pay taxes and whatever, but I often wonder, like, does having them around immediately mean that they feed into local services in some way with their special rich lives?
But not really. It's all just it's all rich
I mean,
people just
conservatives
all
and
focus.
people who are into, like, right wing economics and stuff, they obsess with the idea of the billionaires leaving, the rich people leaving. You have to attract wealth. You have to attract them there.
I mean, it's nonsense because the idea of like trickle down economics clearly does not work. It's not a model that actually it can really exist in reality. But on the other hand, uh, I've been up since 2 a.m. Wait, I forgot.
Oh no!
Wait, you were rich people. Oh, but like now that like with this pandemic has proved like people can work from home. So does even living in New York City make sense? You can
Right.
teleport or telecommute from Greenwich, Connecticut if you're like a Uber like millionaire. Why live in the Upper East Side or
And
Tribeca?
anyone who codes anything can work from literally anywhere. That's been true
Right.
for 10, 15 years now.
Yeah.
Google has been work from home pretty much since the pandemic started. And I was reading that that's also a big concern for the city because they had just invested something like $2.1 billion into renovating that little strip of Manhattan and Chelsea, the whole Chelsea
Yeah.
market area. And it's like, well, if they're going to have their workforce 90% working from home, are they going to keep investing in gigantic offices in Chelsea?
Exactly.
And
Like, what's the point of
that
keeping
sort of
that
thing.
space? Or
Yeah,
even
that sort of.
friggin' Hudson Yards. Think about Hudson Yards, like the years and the fights and the contracts and the dirty dealings to get that awful place built, and all of it, like all of it, where it's like we're gonna have this big fancy luxury shopping mall, yeah, and like Neiman Marcus is gonna be the flagship of it, and all this stuff, and it, boom, pandemic, Neiman Marcus is bankrupt. They're leaving. Who the hell is gonna want to go there anyway? It's just, and who is this for? There's not even the whole thing. I could go on and on about Hudson Yards and how much I hate it and what it
I
like
didn't know that was one of
represents
your pet
for.
peeves, Hudson
Oh, I
Yards.
hate Hudson Yards. I hate everything about it. Like the buildings are literally designed to look like shards of glass. What does that say about a society? That like this is the aesthetic, like this is what we're saying for the 21st century. It's not like
Hmm.
the Beaux-Arts buildings in the Upper West Side, or these little like federal style, like you know, 3-story homes in the village where you're like, oh, this is quaint. These used to be carriage houses. No, it's just shards of glass, like totally soulless and lacking personality, just
Well,
meant
when you
for
walk
people
around there,
who,
it's soulless too.
yeah,
It's like you're in a concrete cavern. You don't see the
yeah,
sun. You know, it's
no,
it's not a pleasant experience. It's not like they turned it into like some sort of green oasis or something in those streets.
right.
You
Like I will
know,
say, like Battery Park City is really pretty, like what they did with that area, the little walkways along the water. But with Hudson Yards, and then the vessel, this is like this metal rib cage of of nothingness, where you just for the purpose to put on Instagram. Like it's not even like this is art. It was all of it was just designed to tag it to tie into Instagram. So guys on Twitter can bring or guys on Tinder can bring their dates over there and be like, yeah, I like to work at Hudson Yards, and like, yeah, I like to work out. What do you do? I like a fashion. Oh, that's good, awesome. So it's like I hate that. I hate everything about that. So, but now it's like it's a total failure in light of coronavirus. So, what is going to happen with that space? What's going to happen with Google? What's going to happen to all of these in- industries that you don't
Yeah.
need to
I
be
mean,
in
look,
an
I
office?
hate I hate rich people as much as any good leftist. But I mean, I think there might be something to New York City being massively harmed by people
Yeah,
like that leaving, if especially if they take all their businesses out. Because I mean, honestly, what is a city? Like, I grew up near Detroit when I was a little kid, and Detroit used to be this bustling city of something like 2 million people, you know, huge driver of industry and commerce, for the whole country, politically very important, kept Michigan blue, all that stuff. And, you know, they decided to basically let it be destroyed by letting all the factories go away, in NAFTA.
yeah.
And the city's never revived. And it's like, people always bemoan and they say it's so sad, but it's like, well, what is a city? Like, does a city have to exist? And I think the answer is no. Like, if there's not an engine there for someone to be working at, there's really no reason for everything peripheral to come off of it, because there was the factories, they assembled the cars.
Yeah.
Here it's entertainment, with tourism, Broadway. Okay, well, we can't do
It's
Broadway
Wall
anymore.
Street.
And it's
It's
Wall
Wall
Street.
Street.
And
But
what's really weird is like Wall Street also doesn't have to be there. Like, they just choose to be in that space. But if
well,
they
it's
really thought
been
about it,
there
they could all
for
be everywhere, you know?
but obviously the stock market hasn't been able to continue during this time. I mean, the
Well,
history,
yeah.
like New York, I mean, the history of particularly European colonized New York has existed for a little over 400 years.
Hmm.
It will survive. How it survives is yet to be seen. um because that's just the nature of New York. Like it's always been that way. Like people come to New York to make their fortune, change their life, start anew.
I agree
You
with you, but
know,
like, it's not a harbor town anymore like it used to be
no,
shipping,
no,
you know?
but I mean, it hasn't been for a while. But it
Right.
certainly isn't the way it was in the 1990s when it was basically bankrupt and they pulled back from that, like on the brink of that. Um, but how I think the biggest problem is the real estate of like commercial real estate, especially, is too friggin' high. Like in terms of like when we get out of this, so many businesses, I mean, all of our improv rehearsal spaces and theaters and stuff, they're like the ones that haven't closed up shop yet. Can't I can't see them lasting that much longer unless they've got money I don't know about,
Right.
because it's like how can because the rent is just too goddamn high. But even then, if they go away, who's filling that space? Because
Right.
but this is before the pandemic. If you walk down Broadway, if you walk down Bleecker Street, Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue, the majority of the stores were already boarded up. And it's not like, yeah, Louis Vuitton can move in, but they don't even want to pay that much money. And like, who's going to a Louis Vuitton on 79th and Broadway when there's one just right down there and there's another one, so it's how commercial real estate like totally got way out of control and just insane. Like they'd rather keep it empty than lower these rents and have it be mom and pop shops or
Yeah.
new entrepreneurs and stuff like that. It's a really shitty problem. And that's something about, sorry, I'm rambling about New
No,
York
that's
City.
okay.
I love New York. I love New York City so
I
much.
love New
But one of the
York.
character, like, I love New York, except when they play music outside. But like one of the like the defining characteristics about neighborhoods is like what makes them unique to one another. But when
Yeah.
it's just Chase Bank and Dwayne Reed and CVS and Chipotle, what is New York?
Well,
And that
that I guess you would call it. I mean, it's not even gentrifying. It's like
Right.
Boxifying, that started when you and I moved here. Every
Yeah.
neighborhood used to
It's
have. I mean, there used to be like where I used to hang out in Chelsea. There were like 8 hardware stores within like a 10 block
yeah.
radius, and so many more restaurants, so many more bars, and you just like people. I'm not talking like we're in Beauty and the Beast and everyone's saying hello to each other, but like you actually could get to know people who worked in small businesses back then,
I
and as
need
we've
6 eggs.
oh, there goes
Oh.
Adrian. Um,
Oh.
so with her, what's the line? With her bread like always? No. Anyways, uh, the song you were quoting, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we saw it become chain stores, and New York resisted that a
Yeah.
lot, but it still kept happening, especially with banks, like you were saying, like everything closed down on a block, and it just became this giant bank. You know, it's like okay, I guess I
Yeah.
can go to the ATM anytime I want, but what am I going to spend my money on? Nothing.
Right.
I got nothing.
Right.
So yeah, like it's like
It's
without localization, an area doesn't really need to exist. And I wonder if like a social distance universe that continues on will change the fundamental nature of New York City in itself. I mean, obviously, these millions of people would have to live somewhere, but
right.
if 35% of them leave, what it, what does that mean for a city even like providing services? Is it going to go back to the 1970s where people are getting shot in the street every day because they just don't provide any services? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody knows, but what we do know is that your favorite stud Governor Cuomo is opening up the schools.
Oh yeah. My
You've always had
stud.
a crush on Cuomo, right? Weren't
Oh,
you saying he?
no, Chris Cuomo. The,
Oh, Chris Cuomo was the one you had a crush on. I see.
what what was it? What was it? So, but the other day I was watching Chris Cuomo as I do, and they always all these talk shows at night. They always do like I'm gonna pontificate now to close it out. But he was talking about he's like my birthday is Sunday, and I'm like he's a Leo. His birthday is the day before mine, and I'm like this makes so much sense. And then he's like, I'm turning 50. And I'm like, what? Then I'm like, he's 10 years and 1 day older than me. And I get out of bed and and the gentleman friend was still up and I tell him this. And he's like, you got out of bed to tell me this? I'm like, yeah. It's like, I'm like
Wow.
I take the zodiac very seriously. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He's all just like, ah. Anyway, yeah, no, I saw that his brother Andrew is now they're opening up the schools soon, and I think that's a horrible idea. I think that's a terrible idea, and it's
I mean,
it's
I
to a
agree with
point
you
that
because
it's just like they're gonna open it like because New York State schools open later than say like Georgia and other states that are open now. Like it won't be till after Labor Day, but by the time we get to Labor Day, will we have another like beginnings of another spike? And then if we do, how long will that last before we have to shut everything back down again? Why put teachers, children, parents, everybody into this panic of like uncertainty? Instead of just having it be a unified keep it closed and you know hell like work with PBS or something to be like we're going to have educational TV and have like math from 10 to 11, social studies from I mean everything's digitalized. You could just have like on cable TV or whatever, so it's unified
yeah,
and cohesive. um
and it sounds like
yeah.
they aren't doing the investment in the protective systems that they could be, right? Like having every school with a mass funding for protective
Yeah.
equipment and masks, and having mask what do they call them, like people who enforce the rules in the schools, making sure everybody's wearing a
uh
mask all the time. uh and it also sounds like some of it I was reading, they're like, well, they wanted to wear masks at lunch, but they have to wear masks in the classroom, and it's like, well, okay. I mean, I also like to sit at a table and eat without a mask on, but like these are like hundreds of kids around
My
each other.
kids.
So them sitting in a cafeteria, isn't it going to spread disease at that moment? Like, even if they're in the
Possibly.
classroom, it's like
Yeah.
it feels one of my favorite phrases. Is it feels very unscientific to think that that they're following
Yeah.
a process. You know,
And just and obviously everything, because everything at all levels of everything is just completely inept, and no one really know, like, that's the secret of life, is once you realize that nobody knows what they're doing, everybody's winging it, and the people who do know what they're doing are often not listened to. So
yes,
it's going to be an absolute shit show. And I you know, as a woman of a certain age, where my whole life was always like, oh, well, maybe I'll have kids sometime. I don't know. And now I'm like, I guess I'm not. But think I'm really, these past couple of days, being like, thank God I don't. Because if I had to be dealing with this right now, I don't know what I'd do. It's just, it's
yeah.
so
My sister's
hard.
going through a real hard decision because she's really worried. She's in
Yeah.
Elkhart, Indiana, which apparently had a lot of cases. Um, and Indiana in itself is very low apparently on infection rates, but she's still just like, you know, how do I keep my family safe? And there doesn't seem to
Right.
be an answer for her. You know, yeah, it is tough. Well,
Yeah.
uh, I have to admit that I didn't charge my computer and I've lost track of the time. But I think we're getting close to
I
time.
think we're at time. I think we're at time. Jesus says 2600
Okay, okay,
minutes.
four more
Yeah.
minutes. Four more minutes. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm always wrong in all my predictions, but what if this is the true transformation to a digital world? And by that meaning 90% of all businesses are human separated and we all work in our little boxes of our homes and we never leave and everything's
That's,
delivered and a small segment of our society has to interact with people and that's customer service and delivery people and no one else ever again.
oh my, that is,
What if that's the
that,
future? I mean, how do you even make friends?
I know. Yeah, how do you make, everything was becoming so separated and distant as it was already. I mean, that's why we did improv, right? So we could actually like interact with
Yeah,
people as adults. Be
I
like,
w-
I don't know.
I wouldn't
It's
know
like,
half the people I know without doing that.
no, because it's like my life was just being like, I go to work, I come home. Ugh, I don't like this. I don't like.
And now you won't even leave your home to go to work, you know?
No, yeah. And if you can't leave your home to go to work, then what's the point? And then if, oh my god, if we can't interact, I don't know.
I don't know either. Maybe
I
this
don't
is
know.
what Bill Gates wanted all along.
Oh, maybe. Hold on.
Uh-oh. What are you
Let's
showing us?
just. I want to talk.
Ah! No!
I want to talk about trickle down economics, since
No!
y'all were talking about my plan earlier in your program.
Get out of here, you freaking
Ah,
neoconservative monster. You ruined this country. How dare you?
I
I thought you were
stopped the.
dead.
I know. I live here, and I keep Adrian awake at night. And okay.
Just talking to her about Reaganomics?
Yes.
Wow, Adrian, no wonder you're up all night. I am so sorry for you.
Just say no. Just say no. Oh my god. Did you see him? He's such a
I saw
jerk.
him. How did he
I
get in?
hate
How long has this
I
been
don't
going
know.
on?
Tim let him in. I don't know.
Tim? Tim's a
He did.
Reaganite?
No, but he just did it to piss me off.
That sounds like Tim.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I think I should let you go and try to get that ghost out of your house.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
Well, until next time, I've been Zach Sommerfield.
I've been Adrian Sexton, and I've
No!
been Ronald Reagan.
And this has been
This
Left
left
and
and correct.
Correct.